Dear friends, thank you for being with me for the third part of the story, part 3. We have seen in the last two parts the story of God's love for man. We have seen the creation, we have seen how God loved man, yet how man failed God, and the coming of human beings on this earth, and thereafter the entire sequence of events that take place. And we have now come to Egypt, from where God has seen that the Israelites were subjected to slavery, and their cry had come to God, and God raised up Moses, and through Moses he is going to liberate the people of Israel. And we saw the last plague, the 10th plague, which was the decisive one. And through that, the Pharaoh relented and allowed the people to leave. Now we see from there onwards what has taken place. Now the people from Egypt has to come to the promised land, which is about 700 to 800 kilometers distance. The normal thing, it would have taken about a month or 2 months, maximum 3 months. But what has actually happened? They left from Egypt and they reached the promised land after 40 years. It's a very, very long time, and nobody can understand why did it take 40 years to reach from Egypt to Israel. Well, friends, that is God's ways, how He makes sure that the people are the right people whom He wants to save, and through that lineage the final story of redemption would come about. So now let's go therefore to the time when the Pharaoh says, take your people and go. And Moses tells all the people, come on, let us go. And they move out of Egypt. And when they move out, after some times, the Pharaoh realizes that all the Israelites have gone, therefore no slaves, and no slaves, how the work will be done. So he decides to chase them, catch them, and bring them back into slavery. The Israelites in the meantime are moving towards the end of Egypt, and from there is a Red Sea, and the other side is the desert of Sinai. Through that desert they will have to come to Israel, the promised land. Now the Israelites are moving and they come to the Dead Sea, and then they find that the Pharaoh and his army is chasing them. And the Israelites look back and see that the Pharaoh's army is fast approaching. Now what do? They grumble against Moses, saying, what is this? You have brought us where? To die in this? So Moses asked God for help. God says, raise your staff and the sea will part. Exactly like that, the sea parted and the Israelites moved through the parted sea to the other side, which is now towards Saudi Arabia or thereabout. So they move towards that, and God protects them and sees that the Pharaoh's army does not come close to them. And finally, when they have crossed the Red Sea, the Pharaoh's army rushes into the sea, and Moses again lifts up his staff, and the sea comes back, drowning all the Egyptians. Well, friend, that was the first miracle that the Israelites saw the power of God and how He was taking care of their safety. But the Israelites, as usual, were a grumbling people. They were never satisfied. They were never happy of what God is doing to them. That is the reason why God made them go around the Sinai desert. It's a very huge place. If you go to Israel, you will see. And there they had to spend nearly 40 years. The entire generation which came was not worthy of the promised land, for the newer generation could enter the new promised land. Well, they moved into the desert and they grumbled for everything. They did not have sufficient food, so they grumbled, but God gave them manna. They did not have meat to eat, so God gave them the quail. They did not have water, so God told Moses to strike the rock and water came. So finally they reached Mount Sinai. They thought that we must have a law. We don't know, God suddenly punishes. So we do not know for what reason. So they wanted a law. And if we keep that law, then God should be happy with us. They said, Lord, you give us a law and we will follow it. We are confident of following. Shows their arrogance. Instead of depending on the mercy of God, they chose the law. So when Moses went up on Mount Sinai, he saw the burning bush, and where he saw God in that burning bush. And when Moses was approaching that burning bush, God says, don't come near and remove your footwear. What does that mean? Wherever God is there, that place is holy ground. So we should not wear footwear. Our dirty footwear should not be worn on a holy ground. Therefore, whenever we go to a holy place, we remove the footwear. That's a good thing to do. Now, God gave finally the 10 Commandments, the law which the people wanted, God gave to them. But when Moses was on top and for many days he had not come, the people below were having their old habit of worshipping idols, and many of them wanted to have their own God. Because by nature, man was trying to be God. And this started in the Garden of Eden when devil said, you will be like God. And that is still in the minds of people. We will be able to do everything. We don't require a God. So they made a golden calf, and with that calf, they started worshipping that calf, thinking that this is God. And when Moses came down from the mountain, he saw these people worshipping the calf. He was so angry that he threw those tablets onto the calf. And the entire people, 3,000 of them died on that day. The earth swallowed them. Then Moses repented, goes back and gets the 10 Commandments written on the 2 tablets. So from that day, the law on earth started. That is the law that they were bound to follow. And if they had broken one law, all the other 10 would be considered as broken. The first part of the law relates to God. It says, I am the true God, and there should be no other false God before him. Should not take the name of the Lord in vain. So this part relates to the relationship between the Israelites and God, Yahweh. Now God had many names. They called God Yahweh, Elohim, I am, which God had told Moses is the name. So these were the names which God was known as. Then from then on they moved, the law was there. The important thing of the law is if you break, like in the first commandment we saw in the Garden of Eden, if you break the law, there will be followed by a judgment and punishment. So from here onwards, you would see that when they break the law, God's punishment would follow. The 10 commandments were like a mirror to show the people where they were wrong and how they committed the sins. So the power of sin was the law itself. Without the law, sin would not exist. So the first law is broken and we are still under the original sin. And now whatever law of these 10 commandments we break, we will be held responsible and judgment would follow. So then the Israelites keep moving, and at one stage they were grumbling against God. In the book of Numbers you will see serpents were sent, fiery serpents were sent, and the serpents bit most of the Israelites and many of them died. So they repented and they prayed to Moses, do something. Then Moses asked God, what is to be done? God says, put a serpent on the pole, and then you see that the pole is put on top so that whoever looks at the pole will be saved. This again is something similar has to happen at a much later stage of our story, when Jesus Christ would be put on the cross and raised, and whosoever looks on him or whosoever accepts him will be saved, and he will live for as the eternal life will be given back to him. Well friends, that is how the Israelites moved in the desert for 40 years and finally they came towards the Jordan River. And just at that point, God told Moses, you will not enter the promised land. So Moses went up and there in the mountain he died. And therefore you have the tomb of Moses in Jordan. Well, the story continues and Joshua is chosen as the leader to lead them into the promised land, and they finally, like the Red Sea, they cross the river Jordan. The river Jordan today, if you go, you'll find it is very narrow, but those days it was much bigger. So God tells Joshua to go to the land of the Philistines. They were huge giant people, so they didn't know how to react to that and how they would conquer. So there was a kingdom of Jericho, where there was the walls of Jericho in which the people they lived. It was difficult for them to conquer. So God is with the Israelites and tells Joshua how to go about, and finally they conquer the Philistines and also many of the other tribes, the Elakamites and Jesubites and all those people who were living there. And then the land of Canaan, where the Canaanites lived. So the Israelites took over all those, that is the promised land. And there you have also the Mount Moriah, which is now Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, the same place which is called as the Temple Mount, where the temple of the Lord was built. Now that place has become very important because the Muslims have taken over that place during their reign of the Caliphate. And the Muslims during the Ottoman Empire had conquered that place, and they had built the Aqsa Mosque. That mosque is said to be from where Muhammad of Islam had gone up to bring the Holy Quran. That is their belief, and that's why they have the Aqsa Mosque, or the Dome of the Rock, which is now called. We will see that later on because it has got very interesting connotations. Now that the Israelites have come to the promised land and they are there, then we find that in the Old Testament, after the book of Joshua, we have the book of Judges. Now judges are not kings, but they are like chieftains who are holy people selected by God for the administrative purposes and the religious purposes of ruling the Israelites that time. But before that, as we have already seen, that Moses has written the 5 books, and that 5 books gives the entire details of what are the laws to be followed, the physical laws or the laws relating to day-to-day activities, and about the worship, about the temple, its constructions, who are the priests, and many of those aspects were given in those books. So you have judges. There are many judges like Gideon, Samson and all that. These people were the judges. And after the judges, you have one more book, a book of Ruth, who was a Moabite woman who came and married an Israelite man, and with her mother-in-law, Naomi, she goes back to the people of Israel. That is the story there. And then you have the prophet Samuel 1 and 2, which tells you that how God had asked Samuel to go and anoint Saul to be the king of Israel, because the people of Israel wanted a king, just like there are other neighboring countries who have their kings. So they said, we also should have a king. And God was very much sad because they did not want him as a king. They wanted a human being. So Samuel anoints Saul, and Saul becomes the king. And Saul was not a good king. So Samuel was feeling sad that he had anointed him. Finally then God says Samuel will go, and in his place David will come. David was very close to God, and David was the person who killed Goliath, the Philistines. And he was a very good man, very prayerful man, very close to God. And so God finally made him the king. Then David's son was Solomon, the man who asked for wisdom from God. So Solomon was a great king, with wise king, and he was the one who built the temple to the Lord. as the first construction of the Temple of Jerusalem. Then you have various kings. You have the books of Kings 1 and 2. And thereafter comes the era of the prophets. Prophet Elijah and Elijah were there. Then you have also the book of Chronicles. Chronicles 1 and 2, which tells you the history, entire history of the Israelites and their relationship with God and with one another. Then in the various books, you have the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. Then you have the book of Tobit. Then you have the book of Judith, for the great warrior woman who saved the Israelites from the Assyrians. Then you have the book of Esther, the queen, who also saved order to destroy the Jews. Then you have the history of Israel flowing down the first book of Maccabees, who revolted against the Hellenistic king. So we see that Israel, and there were many other kingdoms. On the other side was Syria and Babylon. And then you have the Hellenistic, Alexander conquering Israel. And those were the histories which took place. And after that, you will see that the Roman Empire had conquered Israel. Then you have many of the books, the book of Job. Now the book of Job is very important because here you see how God permits testing of the people. He does not lead us into temptation. God does not lead us into temptation, but He permits testing of the people to see how strong we are. The temptations, we are faced with the temptation of the devil. Even Jesus, when after his 40 days fast, the devil tried to tempt him. So what should have been the effect of the temptation we see in the book of Job? Job was a rich man, he had everything, and then always he was praising God and he was praying to God, always in the good books of God. But again devil comes and says, oh, Job can be easily tempted provided you remove all these good things, you remove his all this wealth, etc., etc. So God says, okay, do it. Then all one by one, all the wealth of Job is taken away from him. But still, God has given, God has taken away. Then finally, the devil says, oh, his family is there, that is his support. So the devil attacks the family, kills his children. But there is no change in Job. Job still says, God has given, God has taken it away. Then finally, he says, now let me attack Job himself. Then you see, God even permits that. Then Job is covered with sores, all physical problems are given to Job and he has to suffer. Even his wife, Job's wife says, you curse God. See, he is not there. But Job never says that. And then the devil loses and God is very happy with Job for his tenacious holding on to the love of God. And then God rewards him tenfolds of what he has lost. Then we have in the Bible the books of wisdom and the books of knowledge which is there. These are called the books of Psalms, the books of Proverbs, the book of Ecclesiastics, wherein they say vanity of vanities. Everything is vanity in this life. Nothing is true. All what we see around is not true. Only truth is God. So all that is around us, we may get it for some time, but that is not ours. It will be taken away from us. But only thing what will remain with us is the love of God. If we are steadfast to that love, then we shall be there. Then we have the book of wisdom and the book of Sirach. Then we have the various prophetic books. Now I told you earlier that the Old Testament is full of prophecies, and many of them have come true or has taken place subsequently in our story. So these are the books of Isaiah, Jeremiah, the book of Lamentation, the book of Baruch, book of Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obed, Jonah, Micah, and these are followed by Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and it finally comes to an end with the book of Malachi. That is where the Old Testament ends, the book of Malachi. Now, the Old Testament is there. It has got lot of other things, lot of historical things, and all these things now with the archaeological research and many other research, the Qumran caves documents, the scrolls, and the Jewish Torah, all these things put together, then we get the authenticity of this. So this is not a story in the wind. It is a story which is true and which affects all of us. Because now we have come to the end of the Old Testament. And in the next part, we will start the real story. That will be the story which will tell us about our redemption. The movement from David onwards has started. And then we find that the Israelites are not ready for a Messiah, but looking for a Messiah. And their idea of a Messiah is entirely different. They think he will be like a king and he will conquer and he will rule Israel. But that was not the Messiah's work on his first coming. What was the work of the Messiah? The work of the Messiah was to see that the law is fulfilled. The law has been completed. And we have the first law, which I told you, which Adam and Eve disobeyed, and therefore sin and death came into this world. And that sin is the original sin, which is carried by all the generation. So that has to be first removed. And then again, when the law was demanded by the Israelites, the 10 commandments were given, and the breaking of that law, also judgment would follow, also punishment would follow. So those were the other sins which were committed by the people on the earth after Adam and Eve. So the law continues, and since the law continues, the judgment will also continue. And the judgment continues, the punishment will continue. It is like any other law. Supposing you have the Indian Penal Code, which says if you murder somebody, there will be an investigation and they will find out the truth. And if you are really killed somebody, then there will be a court in which a judgment will be passed. And when the judgment comes, there are punishment scheduled for that. That punishment you will get. So you have to be punished. And that punishment for the sin of disobeying God is death. Now there are two types of death. One is the physical death, what we will undergo, every human being, because of the first sin, and we are coming to this world. And there is one is the eternal death, the death of our soul. So our bodies will go off. The moment we die, dust thou art, and into dust we shall return. But there is another body we will get with our soul. And that body and soul will be subjected to judgment if we do not believe in the Messiah and do not believe in the redemption and salvation of mankind by his death. Now we will be coming to that next part of the New Testament, wherein time itself has been divided from the birth of Christ thereafter and the birth of Christ before that. This is the division of time. We have seen up to the birth of Christ, and now in the next episode we will see what would be after the birth of Christ. Thank you very much for watching the third part, and therefore look forward for the real story which is going to come, something which is going to affect each one of you, each one of us, and how that will make the difference in our lives. We are going to meet the Savior. We are going to meet the incarnate God, Jesus Christ. So be with me for the next part of this program. Thank you very much, and God bless you.